Hey ghosts! I'm that weird little guy from A Star is Burns, and you're watching a review of another terrible self-help documentary. This documentary is called Unsinkable. A great tool for if you are sinking, which is incidentally how I found this documentary. What to do if you are sinking. The idea is that if you're going through something difficult in your life, this documentary will help you turn things around. Death, not for me. Poverty, think again. Don't go through something difficult. Turn around and walk away from it. And the great thing is, I can have a laugh with this documentary completely guilt-free because the woman who made it is unsinkable. She is unbothered by hardship, criticism, and silly YouTube videos made by beautiful Scottish people. Once again, I am not here to stop anyone from finding this documentary and its practices useful and constructive. They have probably helped a lot of people overcome adversity. I personally got a lot of use out of minimalism, and the guys who preach that are so cringe. But I am here to explore strange phenomena and provide entertainment. So let's become unsinkable. The film is free to watch online, which is great, very accessible to the people who need it. But you do have to surrender your email address in order to watch it, and it apparently only screens at certain times of the day, so you have to select when you want to watch it. I am in Scotland and I had no idea what time it was in the US, so I just selected the earliest time possible, which happened to be approximately 3 hours from the time that I actually wanted to watch it. So I left... What's that noise? So I left the countdown page open for 3 hours and went about doing other stuff, which did not include reading the 48-page PDF that I was emailed once I gave over my email address, but I will touch on that later. At the time it said it would start, I had to click on another link and then wait for the video to connect, meaning
have ever seen. So right now, if you're going through a difficult time in your life,
I missed the start. I wasn't late. I had been hovering about on that screen for 15 minutes before it started. This is just how they designed the experience. Maybe this is all part of the experience of learning how to be unsinkable. Apparently, according to this counter in the corner, there was 8,000 to 9,000 people watching at the same time as me, and we were welcomed by an intense message by the producer and star of the documentary, Sonia Ricotti.
stay all the way till the very end of the film. And I mean the very end of the film, past the credits. And oh, by the way, you're going to love the credits and what we did there.
I'm going to spoil the credits. They're not credits. They're shots of people holding up cards that say, I am unsinkable. Nobody gets credited for their work in this documentary at the end of the film. Which means it was probably made by non-union workers because union workers would demand a credit. And maybe that's why Sonia is preaching to grin and bear the hardships of life. The film opens up with a quote by Sonia. Not from Epictetus, Martin Luther King, Maya Angelou, or anyone who famously went through adversity and preached resilience. It is the word of Sonia Ricotti that must be preached before this documentary by Sonia Ricotti. It's then revealed that this documentary was directed by Riley Dane. And if you remember, he's the director of The Abundance Factor. And I have to hand it to him, he is committed to creating an abundance of documentaries all on the same topic. It also explains why the same group of people have been in all of these documentaries so far. Now, at the point of filming, Sonia says that she has already written a book 10 years prior. And then she tells us that recently her mother was diagnosed with cancer. And it is implied that her mother's cancer is the springboard for her making this film.
So with the world the way it is, more and more people suffering, and my own life-altering news hitting me all at once, I decided it was time to go even deeper with this work.
As per usual, these documentaries don't really know how to get away from the big picture that they've set up at the start and into the personal story of the presenter. So they stage a useless scene of the presenter doing something super normal and frame it to be so much wilder than it is.
So I am doing a shot. And I do a shot every single morning. And it's not the kind of shot that you think.
It looks like a smoothie or a supplement drink.
It's wheatgrass.
Wheatgrass. Crazy. Sonia describes her rock bottom, which is quite an intense situation involving debt, house foreclosure, her ex having an alcohol problem, health issues, and thoughts of ending it all. She had an epiphany after a wee cry in bed and looking out the window at a tree. She decided not to be sad anymore, and it motivated her to walk up the stairs.
I was climbing up the stairs. And when I got to the 5th step, I got a message. And it was one word, and it was unsinkable.
What you just saw is a woman having an idea as she walked up the stairs, as composed by Hans Zimmer. So she happens to be talking about her mum in an interview when her phone rings.
Sorry, pass
Yeah.
this there.
Whose is that? Is that mine?
It has a pink case or a red case.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. Or maybe you should get up. Sorry.
It turns out it was the hospital, and we spend a good amount of time waiting for the hospital to leave a voice message.
They left a message.
Her mum is taken a turn for the worst, and 6 weeks after the call, her mum passes away. So that's that interview over. And understandably, this is a very adverse situation that's happened in the middle of you doing quite a stressful project. No matter what film you're making, it is going to be hard. At this point, I expected the tone to shift. I thought that perhaps we were going to get more of a raw look at Sonia's grief, maybe her being really honest about how she felt about it in the moment. But then not everybody wants to film something like that. What we get instead is a montage of people sending videos to Sonia.
Hey, Sonia Riccardi, Mary Morrissey here, sending you love and blessings and hugs.
Hey, beautiful Sonia. You've been in my thoughts.
Say I'm thinking of you and your family, and I'm hoping and praying that your heart is protected during this time.
It's not something I've ever seen happen in real life. I don't know if this is something that happens in the US more frequently, but I have never seen people send video messages collectively to a person after they've experienced a death. And I couldn't help but wonder, did she get a bunch of heartfelt messages sent to her and then go, I'm going to contact all these people and ask if I can use this in my documentary? But the fact that they all mention how strong she is and relate back to the unsinkable theme makes me feel like Sonia maybe asked people to record a message of encouragement for her documentary. And I'm not sure which one is better.
And I know you've plowed through with determined focus and absolute strength, and that's something I've always admired about you.
The reason that these documentaries perplex me so much is because they are presented as a reality, but they don't represent anything I see in real life. There isn't a lot of genuine emotion comes out, and when there is, we really quickly cut away from it. It's like they have to portray resilience at all costs. So anytime we get a little bit deep into someone's story, we immediately stop, remain at surface level, and just gloss over what they've just said. And that's just not that helpful, because the process of going through hardship is to go through the hardship, is to cry and be messy and talk about the dark parts and really dig into those feelings. I don't know, I just feel like they're not really there. So it says that we pick up on the doc a year later. It goes into some encouraging words from the usual suspects, all about how to overcome adversity. When we return to Sonia, she doesn't mention anything about her mum. She instead wants us to meet her friend Shelly Ann. Shelly Ann was in a chemical accident that resulted in her losing her sight at the age of 24. She started painting after she lost her sight, and she uses her sense of touch in order to create her paintings, which is amazing. Painting is such a visual medium, and it's really incredible that she's found a way to do that without vision. And of course, we only really touch on the surface of what happened to her and her overcoming it. We don't go into any of the details. And it's like, why are we following Sonia? This woman has so much to talk about. Instead of digging a little bit deeper into Shelly Ann's story, we get these moments of Sonia wowing at her work. So then we explore why people feel bad, and we come to the conclusion that thoughts are just choices. I always find this concept a little bit hard to navigate. I think there's an argument for both sides. Yes, you can absolutely sit in negativity for too long, and it's comfortable to blame something else for your poor choices. People do exacerbate their misery so that it seems like they don't have the capacity to change, and then that makes them feel better about not changing. But one of their examples is a person who says, "My partner forgot my birthday. They must not love me."
How would you feel if your husband forgot your birthday? And they go, "I'd feel bad." I'd say, "Why?" And they'll usually go, "Well, that means he doesn't love me." I said, "What if you change the thought to someone who loves me forgot my birthday? What happens then?" "Well, now I feel concern and empathy."
This is telling someone who's in a crap relationship to have empathy for the person that neglected them. Like, remembering someone's birthday is the bare minimum. My partner gets angry whenever I go outside. Becomes, my partner loves me too much to let me have a life. The power of Stockholm Syndrome. And I know the people in the documentary will be like, that's negative thinking. But I have given a balanced argument and I raise you confirmation bias. That would have been cooler if I hadn't it up. So she finally decides to talk about her mother's death. And her dad has dementia and had a bit of a fall after the mother passed away. And so he's kind of on death's door too.
34 hours after my mom died, my dad fell and broke his hip.
Good.
He was hospitalized for 2.5 months and had hip surgery. And the hardest part was that he suffered severe dementia after my mom died from all the trauma.
So she goes into how to be grateful for the things that are going well in her life.
I write in this journal every single day, and I take the time to really think about what I'm grateful for.
And I know this is cheesy as but this is actually the best advice the documentary has to offer. Gratitude journaling is very effective. She then interviews John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which is something we'll come back to. But John's wife died too, and he does get quite emotional about this. In a weird way, because he's like really emotional one second and then not anymore the next.
You're my hero. You did everything you can do. You made me feel so loved and cared for. It's not you. That touches me so deeply. It didn't heal it, but it's the starting point. It's the starting point. But you have to just go with the emotions until finally you can start putting them into words.
And I'm beginning to feel like most of the documentary is about grief.
The hardest thing I've ever had to overcome was to be at my mother's bedside watching her die.
Yeah, this feels like it's about death. The ultimate way in which a person sinks. But back to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. There isn't a harder example of creating complete nonsense to justify the fact that you just blatantly don't understand your spouse. Like, all of that talk about not blaming something else for your misfortune, and you're gonna write a book where you pretend that men and women are from different planets and don't understand each other and therefore are designed to have conflict. And he even says that his wife should have been credited for co-writing the book with him, but she just didn't. What? She's from Venus! There are some people who talk about hardships that are not about death, but we do of course remain at surface level. There's a woman who talks about how she decided that she wasn't going to be broke anymore. She just decides not to.
And when my son was 8 months old, I ran out of Pampers. And I went to the ATM and I put my debit card in and it said insufficient funds, $11.42. And I didn't know what to do. So I went home and I wrapped my son in a towel and I kept changing the towel for 2 days. And Sonia, it was on that second day when I looked down at my son Jelani and I put my hand on his little belly. And I knew he couldn't understand me, but I needed to say it out loud and I needed to hear myself. I said, Jelani, Mommy will never, ever be this broke again.
I don't know. Having the money to afford my child's needs does seem like a good choice, but crying in the supermarket because I can't afford diapers, that feels like a good choice too. I don't know. Okay, fine, I'll choose the money. So then Sonia decides to visit the home that was foreclosed on her during her hard times. And it's a really nice house. 2-door garage, little balcony there. I don't live in a house like that. Is this rock bottom? Am I unsinkable? So she gets access to the house and she goes to the window where she had her epiphany. And she does what can only be described as reality TV waffling. Wow. Wow.
I feel sorry that what happened to you, but
you know what?
Happy end, okay?
Yes, exactly.
You had to lose your home for the plot. This last little moment at the house feels quite passive-aggressive.
I'm happy the home went to them. It's great.
Moving swiftly on, we then get a very dark recounting of a story from a woman called Rhonda, who at the age of 14 saw her dad shoot her mum and then take his own life.
And so me and my mother start walking through the house to get to the outside to get in the car, and my father says, I'm gonna go get my coat. And as he opens his trunk and goes to grab his coat, I notice that he hasn't grabbed a coat. He's grabbed a gun.
This woman has been through trauma. It's honestly the most intense story of the whole doc, and we don't dwell on it for long at all. Should this not be the whole documentary?
And instead of shooting me, he shot my mother through the abdomen, cocked the gun again, shot her a second time. The bullet goes through her abdomen, out the car horn this time. And then my father just slid right next to me, literally 2 feet away, put the gun to his head and fired.
Why did your dad do that? What happened to you next? How did you recover from it all? We'll never know, because that would be too negative. We move on again to forgiveness. Rhonda talks about how she wrote out her feelings and she forgives her dad for all of it. It is quite insightful and it is helpful knowledge again. I have forgiven people for stuff way less than what Rhonda went through, and I found it to be quite helpful.
Because how many times does that unforgiveness make decisions for you? And that unforgiveness tightens your heart and closes down your heart. It closed my heart down, right? And I couldn't love. Sure, I had sex, but I didn't love.
Are we still on the topic of forgiveness?
I mean, not only did I have to forgive my mother and father just for the deaths and for the murder-suicide, but I had to forgive my mother and dad again when I got married for not being there. And then I had to forgive them again for when I got divorced. And then I had to forgive them again for not being there when I found out I was infertile.
Okay, slow down. We literally never come back to this.
The only place the past exists is in your mind.
So should I just burn the history books, or?
Even when the future arrives, it's the present. It never arrives in the future. It's the present. That doesn't mean you don't plan for the future, but you're planning it in the present. This is the only moment we have right now. This present moment is your life. Everything else is a thought.
I'm so f***ing confused. Okay, so Sonia is finishing things off with a hike in Sedona. She says she comes here to connect to her higher self, and because a guy gives out free heartstones and plays the flute. My higher self also likes free stuff and music. I'm not gonna lie, if I watched this documentary when I was at my most distressed and down, I would probably find it really encouraging. Now, because I'm not in a time of despair, it's like the self-help book in Severance. Outside the oppressive workplace, it's a load of crap. Inside the oppressive workplace, it's very encouraging.
Life is like a staircase. Sometimes you go up, and sometimes you go down.
But you choose to go down the stairs to get to other rooms in your house or to leave. It's not a traumatic experience every time you go down the stairs. Although for Sonia, it might be a dramatic experience. So the film is over, but Sonia told me to hang around and she's here to sell me her course. Sonia, it ain't me, babe. I'm all good. So I wanted to quickly touch on the PDF that I was sent when I signed up to watch the film. It appears to be Sonia's book that she published in 2011, although I'm not 100% sure. She dedicates an entire page to her mother's stairway quote and uses elevators, so you're not even doing the work to go up and down the stairs. They're just pushing you. She uses the phrase, "We all have the same 24 hours in a day." I think it was Miyazaki who said, "This is an insult to life itself." Are you standing in the shop, unable to afford diapers? Don't forget that you have the same 24 hours in the day as Jeff Bezos. Just choose not to be broke anymore. You think Bezos buys his own diapers? Absolutely not. He pays someone else to do that. And when you become rich, you can pay someone else to do that until that person realizes that they don't have to do it either, and then they choose to be rich, and then we just all choose to be rich. That's how it works. But what she does do in the book is that she finally gives advice on how to make change once you've decided to, the steps involved. And we're not talking about staircases, finally. She dedicates 2 pages in this 48-page PDF to the steps. She calls the process being a maverick, and there are 2 steps involved. The first step is getting clear. Get clear about what you want. You write it down as a list, and she gives you space to write down what you don't want and what you do want. And that's really helpful. I've actually never considered writing out what I don't want, but you never know, maybe it'll help me avoid it. Step 2 is to think outside the box and put a plan in place. Break your dream down into baby steps, or if you're really thinking outside the box, a baby staircase. So there we have Unsinkable. It's perfectly fine to get advice from, and it's perfectly fine to have fun with. Because even if it does hit an iceberg and sink, the sensationalized story will go on to win many, many awards. See you next time.